Welcome to Food Technology 1, FOT 150S. I am Vusim Shaisa, and this is part 2 of the cleaning methods for raw materials. So, cleaning as a unit operation, as we've discussed previously, has the goal of separating the contaminants from your raw material. So, in this section of this video, we are going to talk about cleaning methods. Cleaning methods, they are separated into two. So we've got the cleaning methods which focuses on the dry cleaning. We've already covered that in part 1. So if you have not seen that video, look at part 1, and then in this video we're going to talk about wet cleaning. So under wet cleaning we find methods that has got to do with the use of water or the use of detergents in terms of cleaning or removing the contaminants from the surface of your raw material. So wet cleaning is regarded as a more effective than dry cleaning methods in terms of removing soils from crops such as fruits and vegetables. It's also regarded as effective in terms of removing dust from the surface of the raw material and also for removing pesticides from fruits and vegetables. So wet cleaning methods are very important in the food industry. These are necessary when large quantities of soil are to be removed from the surface of the raw materials. However, their disadvantage is that they use a lot of water. So if you're going to have a cleaning method that requires only the use of a wet cleaning, you may have a problem with the amount of water that is used in the process. So what industries are doing in this era of sustainability is that they are treating the water that has been used. So there is what we call wastewater treatment plants. So the treatment and the reuse of water can then be used as a mechanism to reduce the cost. Sanitizing chemicals such as chlorine, citric acid, and ozone are commonly used in wash waters. In fact, in one of the practicals that we do in blanching or preparing of mixed vegetables or stir fry, we also use ozone, right, as a cleaning step. This is especially in association with peeling and size reduction, where reducing enzymatic browning may also be the aim. So you can also use, as I've said in the previous video, you can also use a combination of methods to achieve the desired cleanliness or the desired degree of decontamination that you may be interested in. So now if we want to go and look at the advantages and disadvantages of cleaning methods. So if we look in comparison to dry cleaning methods, this method is effective for cleaning firmly adhering soils and is used in conjunction with detergents and sanitizers, as I've said. So this method causes less damage to your materials compared to dry cleaning, which specifically is targeted mostly at the raw materials which has low moisture content and which have hard surfaces. So the disadvantage, of course, as I've said, is that this is a very expensive method to use in the food industry, and it also generates affluent waste that needs to be treated. So you have to pay the cost of the water and also the cost of the waste that you still need to treat, because you can't dispose the water that is coming from your plant into the sewer, because the municipality will charge you. So, what's very important to us as food scientists is the fact that wet surfaces, they spoil rapidly. You know, most of the foods that have a high moisture content, they are susceptible to degradation because bacteria and even some extent viruses and molds can grow them. So therefore, you require a dewatering process to render the material suitable for further processing, right? So you need to be pay very much attention to this point, because as a food scientist in the food industry, you will be required at some point to devise or to design cleaning materials or cleaning strategies for a particular plant. So taking care of the wet surfaces making sure that you dewater the surfaces to render the process material suitable for further processing or storage. So now we're going to look at what are these methods that we are talking about under dry cleaning. So the first one that we're going to look at is soaking. Soaking is a preliminary stage in the cleaning of heavily contaminated materials. So this would be the first step, just to soak the materials, put the root crops there to permit the softening of the soil and partial removal of stones and other contaminants. So you leave these raw materials soaked for a determined period of time, and then adhering stones and abrasive materials can then also be removed during this preliminary step of soaking. So as I've said in the previous video, these stones or soils or abrasive materials can also damage your machinery downstream. That is why one of the functions or importance of cleaning is to make sure that you protect the equipment from damage. So machinery that is used in the food industry normally consists of stainless steels or concrete tanks that allow for regular cleaning. So here you can also be able to clean these equipment on a regular basis and then also sanitize them, right? So what we don't normally advocate or use is the use of absorbent materials such as wood. So this is not really required. It's not used because it absorbs moisture, and once it absorbs moisture, then it presents an opportunity for bacteria, molds, and viruses to grow them. So in terms of soaking, I will show you a video in the next slides. So agitation is affected by spudging compressed air. So you can just spudge the water with compressed air through the tank. So this is normally used for products such as strawberries, asparagus, spinach, and celery. So these have the ability to trap in dirt internally. So spudging is normally reserved for delicate products. Be careful of this technique. It's not used for all the raw materials. It's only used for delicate produce. So another thing that can also be implemented is the use of warm water to improve the soaking. However, this has a disadvantage in that it increases the spoilage risk, because remember also bacteria also likes environments that are warm. So also if you have warm water that has stayed over a long period of time, some of the bacteria can grow them. Detergents they are used to remove spray residues and mineral oils, but they could also affect the appearance of food. For example, in the processing of pears, they use sodium hexametaphosphate. This then ends up in softening the peas. Lightly contaminated soak water from subsequent washing stages can also be channeled through what we call a countercurrent system to reduce the high volume of wastewater or effluent. So some water is slightly contaminated and therefore it requires chlorination to reduce the bacterial load. So with regards to chlorine, this is normally lost due to high chemical oxygen demand, and it necessitates the high dosages. So if this is used in the processing of potatoes, it can cause blackening of potatoes. Hence that is why in potatoes they use abrasion cleaning in combination with peeling. So the spraying method or technique is under washing under wet method is one of the widely used methods in the food industry, and the food surfaces are subjected to water sprays, and the efficiency of this process is dependent on a number of factors. So the water pressure, the volume of the water temperature, the distance between the spray and the food, and also the number of spray jets, right? So what is mostly preferred under these spray washing techniques is that you should have a low volume of water and high pressure, this is regarded as the best combination, but it can also damage delicate foods. So you can also see here that there is absolutely no one size fits all. So you have to carefully consider the raw material that you have. Ask yourself, what is the nature of the raw material? The previous chapter that we've looked at the raw material and the process. So it talks about the functional properties, it talks about the textural properties, it talks about the geometric properties of your food materials. So before you even wash your materials or decide which equipment are you going to use for cleaning your material, you need to have the product or the raw material in mind, right? So let us look at the spray drum washers. So these spray drum washers consist of what we call an inclined rotating drum, which is constructed with metal slants which are centrally located water jets. So as you can see here in the middle here, you've got these water jets that are there. Let's see, pointer here. So these water jets are located inside, and then the drum rotates over this side. So here you've got the dirty material coming in, and so these are your spray jets. And as the drum rotates, because this thing is inclined, then it goes out here, and then here you've got the material that is clean at the end of the day. So as I've said, the product enters from this side, which is the elevated side, and then this is the bottom part. So the efficiency of this process is dependent upon two factors, right? The speed of rotation, how much are you rotating this drum, and then the exposure time of the fruits or raw material to the spray jets. Here you've got quite a number of spray jets, which is 5. Basically, it should be enough for the material to roll down and come out on the other side clean. The second one is the spray belt washers. So here we find that the sprays are located at the top part and they are stationary, right? So this consists of a perforated conveyor belt that carries the food beneath the water jets. So the conveyor belt goes this way. So this is the direction of the conveyor belt, and you've got the fruit pieces coming in, they go on this side. So this is normally used for spherical foods such as apples, to improve contact with the water, so they can be able to rotate. So smaller foods may require vibration or vibrating the conveyor belts to remove adhering dirt by agitation. So this is normally used for application in spherical food products. Let us now look at an example of soaking and spraying of pineapples. So let's look now in terms of how materials such as cucumbers can be processed. So as you can see here, they can be dumped or dropped into water. And then this basically will then remove the soils, and then the cucumbers then can move up a conveyor belt. So from the conveyor belt, you can also see they are then sprayed. So there is water sprays now that sprays them as they move into the conveyor belt. Then the next step will be sorting by manual sorting by hand. So people will remove cucumbers that may be damaged or that may not meet the specification. As you can see here, some of the cucumbers are removed and thrown in the middle. Very interesting. Do you know how you would go through a process of cleaning lemons? Will it still be the same process or will it be a different process? Right, let's look at the last one for strawberries. So in this case of strawberries, the process of spudging is applied in the previous video. where the water is agitating, and it's also used in conjunction with spraying. So now we're going to look at the other method, which is called flotation washers. So this method depends on the buoyancy properties of the foods and the contaminants. So I can also say it depends on the hydrodynamic properties of the foods and the contaminant. Hydro means water, right? So the examples that can be mentioned for this type of method will include things like apples, so whereby bruised or rotten apples will sink in water, and then those that are sound, which are proper or good, will float. Right, so the dirt here, if you look at this picture, the dirt which accumulates at the bottom is removed by fluming foods over a series of adjustable weighers. So there are weighers that are found here at the bottom. So here what accumulates is the stones, soil, and the rotten fruit. So the adhering dirt is later removed by spray belt methods or vibrating conveyors. So in the case of peas, peas can also be washed by flotation washers. In that case, mineral oil is added to the water. So this will cause the debris, the material that is dirty that goes in at the bottom, to float on the surface of the general foam. So this is skimmed off, and the peas that sank in the solution are washed to remove the adhering emulsion. So that can also be one of the techniques that can be used. Peas then, in this case, they will sink, and then the dirt that can accumulate in peas will be the one that goes on top, right? So the last method that we'll talk about is ultrasonic washers. So this method makes use of the ultrasonic waves sounds, which are above those detectable by the human ear. So the frequency should be above 16 kilohertz. So insonation of water with such high frequencies reduces rapidly alternating pressure in the path of waves and leads to rapid formation and collapse of the bubbles in the water. So the cavitation and decavitation causes violent agitation of the particles in the fluid, and so this is how then the dirt is removed from the product. So can also be used in the application of fruits and vegetables and eggs, and then they can be later washed by conventional methods. So also in the laboratories, this is used to clean the glassware. So the last thing that you need to do now, once you've passed your raw materials through the washing process, is what we call the dewatering step. So we know that wet cleaning does not leave the surface, the cleaned surface, without excess water. So there is always it's contaminated with excess water. So water on the surface of the foods can then, as I've said previously, lead to spoilage of certain food products. So it's very important that this excess water is removed to prevent microbial damage. We know that wheat should not be stored with moisture content exceeding 13%, and then because the wheat is going to have mold, or it's going to spoil very quickly. So this process of removing water from the raw material after it has been cleaned, it's called dewatering. And what equipment can you use to dewater wheat, or raw materials? So we use what we call dewatering centrifuges. So these dewatering centrifuges, they rotate at a speed that is greater than gravitational force, right? So then the water can be separated from the raw material. In future chapters, we are going to cover centrifugation, so you're going to know more about how these principles can be applied. So just to conclude on this chapter, it's very important that you understand the reasons why raw materials should be cleaned. You should also understand the importance of cleaning raw materials, and the different types of methods that falls under dry cleaning methods and also under wet cleaning methods. So in the assessments, we will give you a scenario where you need to clean a given food product, and then you as a student must then tell us which method are you going to apply in order to clean your food products. Right. So if you've got any questions, you can send me an email, or you can ask the questions on the Blackboard discussion groups. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment on the videos and let us know how we are doing. Thank you.